Audible AI Cast, The Wisdom of Solomon. Building True Wealth.
Okay, so want to be a millionaire. Who doesn't, right? But what if I told you we could find, like, surprisingly savvy financial advice in the Bible?
Okay, I'm intrigued.
We're diving into the wisdom of King Solomon. Think of him as, like, the OG tycoon.
He's definitely got that wisdom thing going for him, at least according to, history.
Right. And this YouTube video we're diving into claims that wisdom was, like, the secret sauce to his legendary wealth.
Okay.
Now, before you think we're starting a financial Bible study group or something.
Yeah, I was going to say.
We're not, like, endorsing any particular belief system here.
Gotcha.
We're just on the hunt for practical advice, pure and simple.
Which is exactly what our listeners love, those unexpected connections,
Exactly. And this video, it doesn't waste any time. It claims Solomon basically said, forget job hunting, find wisdom, and the wealth will follow. Now, in this economy, that's a bold move.
It's definitely attention grabbing, but let's be real. Solomon wasn't exactly like scrolling through job boards, right? His world was completely different.
So maybe it's not about, like, dishing the resume entirely, but more the underlying message.
Exactly. The video, it contrasts temporary wealth with what it calls lasting wealth. That's where things get interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think of it this way, winning the lottery, that's temporary wealth, right? It's fleeting. Lasting wealth, that comes from building something substantial, something that lasts.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. It's like the difference between, say, inheriting a bunch of money and, like, building a business that's generating wealth for generations.
Exactly.
But then the video, it throws in another curveball.
Yeah.
Like, alongside riches, Solomon also emphasized honor and justice.
Interesting.
It sounds great on a motivational poster, but how does that translate into, like, actual financial success?
That's where we need to, like, ditch our 21st century mindset and dive into Solomon's world for a minute. Back then, honor and justice, those weren't just, like, ethical concepts. They were intertwined with your reputation. And your reputation. That was everything.
So it's less about being, like, a goody two-shoes and more about the practical implications of having a solid reputation.
Think of it this way. Would you rather do business with someone known for integrity and fairness, or someone who, let's just say, has a reputation?
Yeah, I know who would choose.
Exactly. Trust and respect, those weren't just like nice-to-haves back then. They were the foundation of any successful deal. And honestly, I think that holds true even today, don't you think?
So building a reputation, being trustworthy, solid foundation, right? But how do we actually, like, build that wealth? This video, it gives us what it calls Solomon's four-step plan.
Four-step plan. Yeah, it's easy to be cynical about those.
Right.
But if you actually, look at what they're getting at,
Yeah.
there's actually some really interesting stuff here.
Okay, lay it on me. What's step one?
Step one, this video says, is to seek knowledge. But, and here's the thing, it's not just any knowledge, right? It emphasizes, like, the kind of wisdom that helps you actually navigate the world, make smart decisions, that kind of thing.
So less about, like, memorizing facts and figures and more about, like, really understanding how things work.
Exactly. It's like, it's one thing to know how to code, but it's another thing to know how to build a successful tech company, right?
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing.
Okay.
And that actually leads perfectly into step two, be diligent. But, and this is interesting, it's not just about, like, working hard. It's about being dedicated to doing things right.
Okay, so quality over quantity. It's like that, if it's worth doing well idea.
Precisely. Solomon, or at least this video's version of Solomon, seemed to understand that true success, it actually comes from, mastering your craft, whatever that craft may be.
Right. Makes sense. So we've got wisdom, we've got dedication. What's next?
Step three is a big one. Diversify. We hear a lot about diversifying your income streams these days, right? But this video actually takes it a step further. It's about diversifying your sources of wealth.
Okay, so not just multiple streams of income, but building wealth in different, like, areas.
Exactly. Think real estate, think investments, think building businesses, even, like, creative pursuits, The idea is to create this, like, web of assets that all work together to build lasting wealth.
Not just a single paycheck.
Exactly.
Got it.
And then, of course, we get to step four, grow your assets. That's the one that,
Yeah, sounds intimidating, especially these days.
It can feel overwhelming. But the key, I think, is to shift your mindset from, like, consumption to investment. So instead of just thinking about spending your money, you're looking for ways to, make your money work for you.
Put that money to work. Don't let it just sit there. But this video, it doesn't end with just the muddy stuff, does it? It actually takes this, like, surprisingly philosophical turn
Yeah, you're right.
at the end there.
It wraps up by suggesting that for Solomon, money, it wasn't actually the end goal. It was like a means to a much greater end. Freedom.
Freedom. Now, that's a pretty big idea to unpack. What kind of freedom are we even talking about here?
And that's the question, isn't it? What does freedom actually mean to you? That's what the video leaves us with. Is it, financial independence? Is it the ability to pursue your passions? Or is it something else entirely?
Okay, so we've gone from, like, dusty old scriptures to some pretty profound questions about wealth and freedom here.
Yeah.
Who knew King Solomon was, like, such a deep thinker?
It really makes you realize how much ancient wisdom can still apply to our lives today. But I mean, it's one thing to talk about it. It's another to actually, put it into practice.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So how do we take these, like, big ideas, this wisdom, diligence, diversification, all that, and turn them into, like, concrete actions? How do we bridge that gap from ancient king to, well, maybe not a modern millionaire, but at least, a financially savvy person?
Well, let's go back to those 4 steps. But this time, instead of a scroll, let's imagine we've got, like, our to-do list out.
Okay, I like it.
Step 1, remember. Seek knowledge, but in a way that actually gives you an advantage in the real world.
So not just, like, being a trivia buff, gaining actual applicable skills. And that feels even more important now than ever, don't you think?
Absolutely. Imagine you're back in Solomon's time, right? You could be, like, the best grape smasher in the entire kingdom.
Okay.
But then someone invents, a more efficient way to make wine, and suddenly...
Your grape smashing skills aren't so valuable anymore?
Exactly. And it's the same principle today, just with less, grape smashing. So think about it. What are you truly passionate about? And what skills can you develop that would make you, like, invaluable in your field? Or even, help you create your own field altogether?
Okay, so we've got our passions, we're honing our skills, time to put in the work, right? Which brings us to step 2, diligence. But it wasn't just about working hard, was it? It was about doing things right.
It's about craftsmanship. Imagine Solomon, right? Overseeing the construction of his famous temple. He wouldn't just want any old building, right? He'd demand the best materials, the most skilled artisans. He'd want something built to last.
It's the difference between something that's, like, disposable, here today, gone tomorrow, and something that becomes, like, a legacy.
And that's what diligence really is. It's about taking pride in your work, holding yourself to a high standard. It's about building a reputation for doing excellent work, which, as we talked about earlier, is incredibly valuable.
Okay, I'm with you. So we're wise, we're dedicated, we're basically ready to, like, build our empire. Step 3 was diversification. And not just in the, like, side hustle sense of the word.
Right. This is about, like, true financial security, having multiple ways to create wealth. Think of it like, a diversified investment portfolio, but for your life.
I like that. So maybe you've got your, like, your main income stream, your 9 to 5, but you're also, slowly building up a rental property portfolio on the side. Or maybe you're writing a book while also running an online business.
Exactly. It's about having multiple streams of income, spreading your bets, and creating, like, this safety net of wealth.
Okay, makes sense. And that, of course, ties into that final step.
Yeah.
Growing your assets.
Yeah.
Once you've got those different streams, those different things working, how do you actually make them, work harder for you?
And this is where, for a lot of people, it can feel a little overwhelming. Investments, real estate, starting a business.
Especially if you don't come from, like, a wealthy background, it can feel like, where do I even begin?
Exactly. And that's where I think Solomon's wisdom is actually, like, the most relevant. It's not about just, like, throwing money at every opportunity that comes along.
Right.
It's about approaching it all with that same, wisdom and diligence that we've been talking about, making informed decisions, seeking out expert advice when you need it, being patient.
Playing the long game.
Just like Solomon building his empire to last for generations.
Exactly. This has been, I'm telling you, what a journey. We started with this simple YouTube video about King Solomon, and, like, look where we ended up. A whole new perspective on building wealth, not just for ourselves, but for, like, future generations.
And ultimately, I think that's what true freedom is really all about, isn't it? The ability to make choices that are good, not just for us today, but for, the people we care about, both now and in the future.
Now, that's a powerful thought to end on. So to our listeners out there, we ask you, what does freedom mean to you? What's one small step, even just one, that you can take today to start building that future? Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.
Audible AI Cast. The Wisdom of Solomon. Building True Wealth.